Good afternoon, everybody, here on Marvel Movie Talk. Momentarily continuing our conversation about Thunderbolts. Concluding our conversation on Thunderbolts. Crazy enough to say. All that will happen. Our buddy Daniel Drew in the chat. Round 3 of Venge. So that'll be exciting to get to talk more about that. I finally saw it for the second time, and I was also really busy the last couple weeks, so that's what the delay was. But it seemed like the perfect opportunity to welcome back to the show a great friend, Katie Kawamoto. Katie, how are you? So great to see you.
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. I think it's been a minute. I can't remember the last time I was on the show, but for
Yeah,
those of you who have been friends of the show for a while, we did lovely Agents of Shield talk for a while, a whole pandemic ago.
yeah.
So yeah, but I'm happy to be back talking about Thunderbolts. I haven't seen it twice like you, but I did see it once.
Well, I was disappointed in myself because I waited a little too long. I wanted the second time seeing it to be IMAX, and but you know what? It wasn't even Mission Impossible. I forget what they replaced it with, but something else was already in there. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to see it on the regular screen. But I
Yeah.
enjoyed seeing it again, and we're gonna talk about that.
Was it
Uh,
Sinners?
no, Sinners was beforehand,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah, I guess that's
but
right.
by the
Okay.
way, our buddy Daniel Drew appreciates the fact this is for our visual audience. There are so many stuffed creatures staring at me. Yes, I like the Frankenstein because he's got the clearest, biggest eyes, and he's
Yeah.
definitely staring at all
Thanks,
of us.
Daniel. Yeah, that's what happens when you have an addiction or a roommate that's addicted to claw machines.
Oh yeah, my kids are both very addicted to claw machines. They like nothing more than a good midway at Circus Circus, both Vegas and Reno, by the way.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they like to spend a lot of time there. In any case, Katie, it's so great to see you again, and I promise it won't be so long. I think the last time you were on, we weren't even doing this show with Geekscape. It was still solely on the Blackcast YouTube channel.
I think
So
so. Yeah.
yeah, so it's that long ago, and I'm so glad that we're getting to chat here because not only are we going to talk about this movie that I'm excited to talk about again, there is a lot of Marvel news, some movie news, some TV news, and also some comic book news that came earlier today. A big Batman Deadpool crossover, and not everybody has to be excited about it, but I do like when we're able to share an image like this, Katie. You got Batman and Deadpool right there,
You do.
you know, and we would never get it in a movie. Like, I can understand that. So that's why we have to kind of celebrate these sort of things,
Yeah.
and it'll be available later this year. So it's there'd be 2 issues. Grant Morrison's going to write the DC issue, and Zeb Wells is going to do the Marvel one.
Hmm.
So that's fun. I like these crossovers. I once read a really fun Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. So, like, these
Okay.
things, they're not ever really earth shaking. So I think it can be fun.
Yeah.
X-Men Teen Titans is a great one from the 80s. And Daniel's just sort of commenting, IMAX screenings are getting rare, which is odd. I think that you can only put so many movies into it. Laser and
Mhm.
Dolby screenings seem to be more frequent as a couple months ago. It's true.
Yeah.
I saw Mission Impossible on the big IMAX at Universal City, which is one of sort of like the old, really giant IMAX screens,
Yeah.
kind of like you're used to, like when I used to go to the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., there would be like 20-minute movies that would give you like air sickness. I think Final Destination is what ended up on
Oh, that
IMAX.
would
Yeah.
make sense. Oh, I would not want to see that in IMAX.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that, you
Yeah,
know,
I think that IMAX runs are 2 weeks each. I think because only one movie can be in IMAX at a time, and so
yeah.
yeah, it's tricky to get the timing right.
Yeah, and Daniel, if you have any more of these, he thinks there might be a few of these crossovers starting in the
Hmm.
fall. Message in the chat what they are. This one
Yeah.
caught my attention, mostly because Rob Liefeld said can't wait for the residual checks. He's soured on Marvel a little bit. If you're not following that narrative out there in the chat, neither here nor there. Because this is Marvel movie talk, and this happened since the last time we did the show, this isn't really surprising. So, Avengers Doomsday was set to release on May 7th, 2027. No,
Hmm.
sorry, it was supposed to be on May 1st, 2026.
Yeah.
Now it's December 18th, 2026. And I don't know about you, Katie, but when I heard this, I was like, oh, you mean the movie that they just started filming last month is not going to
Yeah.
be ready in less than a year? Yeah, that's fine. And if they need to move it again because they want to make it better, as long as it's good, I'm always fine with it. And
Yeah.
just sort of the other domino is that Secret Wars goes from May 7th, 2027 to December 17th,
Hmm.
2027. So it's crazy to throw these dates so far in the future. But, I don't get that bothered about it. Just sometimes, you're just like, I kind of want to see what this is. But I want them to make it good. How do you feel about that, Katie?
I'm kind of the same, after before Thunderbolts came out, obviously I think a lot of us were getting Marvel fatigue.
Sure.
Even myself, who's an avid Marvel fan, would go to every single midnight showing, all the way up until Endgame and Captain America. I'm sorry, Spider-Man, and then
Sure.
kind of fell off a little bit. For other reasons too, of course, the pandemic and all that stuff too. But I was getting fatigued. But yeah, when I found out about the release, I was like, it was supposed. I forgot when it was supposed to come out. I was like, it was supposed to come out next, like, in a year.
Yeah.
Like, they just announced major cast updates just a couple months ago. In that really awesome live stream that they decided to do.
Oh, you mean
Um,
with all the directors' chairs?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
that
were
was
live
wild.
while that was happening. It had
Oh,
started a few hours beforehand. So
yeah,
I kind of kept it in
updating.
another window, and I would just be like, oh, here's a screenshot of somebody else who's in it. So,
Yeah, because
uh,
I didn't see the beginning of it, and then I woke up, halfway into it or whatnot, and I was like, oh, they're announcing the Doomsday Cast to my roommate, and then we started watching the YouTube, and I'm like, oh, the music's starting. What's the next one? What's the
yeah.
next one? And we joined like while they were announcing the X-Men. So yeah, so I wasn't really surprised that it got pushed. I definitely am under the quality over like a quantity, and like just how fast things are coming out. They
Right.
were
Sure.
putting out so much stuff for a while that we got fatigued by it, and I missed that feeling of going to the theaters at midnight. It kind of was lost for a couple of years. So, and also, who doesn't want a Christmas slot?
I
That's
agree. That
that's
is
that's
that.
the May slot, of course, is great because you have I think that's what's that slot? And it's not quite Memorial Day, but
Yeah.
it's like there's something. It's like spring break, a little bit after spring break kind of thing. So it's a good slot, but obviously like December is way better
Yeah,
anyway.
and it's like a kickoff to summer when you get
Yeah.
the May movies. It's fine.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of untitled projects that have moved around. It's not really worth getting into those because we don't know what they were, but obviously there's some movement, and I'm sure Kevin Feige and his team know what all these movies are. They just don't need to tell us yet.
Of course.
Ladastro in the chat mentions when they originally announced the dates, I thought it was a tough schedule to meet. Yeah, agree 100%.
Especially if you're doing such a big budget and
Yeah,
a huge cast, getting all those cast schedules to work out and everything. Like, yeah, it's
yeah.
even for a low budget movie, that's pretty hard to do with all of the process of, for those of you who are watching who may not be in the industry, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in a
Yeah.
year to get that out to market. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and Daniel Drew with a comment that if our buddy Ivan Soto was in here, he'd agree with that more than anyone else. I hope we see Agents of Shield characters in one of these Avengers movies. Coulson's the one who always makes the most sense. But it would be fun. There's no reason you can't have Quake in there.
I
But
want Quake back so badly. If you guys watched the Agents of Shield after show for the last season, you know that Quake is my girl. Obviously, Ming Yawen as well. Like, they're both queens. But I want to see Daisy or Quake back so badly. I want them to have not thrown away all of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. universe when they decided that it wasn't going to be in the same, like, when they, like, randomly decided, oh, this isn't going to be canon anymore. And you're like, why not?
Yeah, but especially with I know that we've pivoted from the multiverse,
Yeah.
which is something you and I were messaging about over the weekend. Unfortunately, because I think it could have all come together nicely. So there's no reason we can't see any of these characters.
Yeah.
The ending of Thunderbolts shows us that really anybody can come over when we want them to. And you know what, Daniel, I hadn't thought about it this way. He's wondering if what'll change is that the Spider-Man movie will be before both of these Avengers movies instead of between them. I
So
hadn't considered that.
which
So
Spider-Man movie? The most recent one is
no,
considered.
so there'll be the next Spider-Man movie. So there'll be a fourth Tom
Oh yeah.
Holland,
Okay.
and I guess it's going to come out now by next summer. So
I didn't even know they officially
I think
announced
that they start. Well, yeah, I think they started filming it, some
okay.
time ago. The date that it's called Brand New Day, which
Oh, that's right.
makes me really nervous because of the Brand New Day and the comic books, July 31st, 2026. So post Comic-Con, which seems like a mistake because usually this year Fantastic Four, last year Deadpool and Wolverine opening the during Comic-Con, I thought was kind of fun, but also really annoying to everybody who was there trying to see the movie. Let's see. Finishing this thought. Ladastro, Coulson, and Quake are most likely. Would love to. Oh my gosh,
Fitzsimmons.
I miss Fitz and Simmons so much. Yes,
I
and
think I think you and I are on the same boat. I think that was always where we were with like Fitzsimmons. Like they were always a fan favorite, but that last season just, I mean, it took it home.
Look, I will accept the two of them being cast as different characters in something else just so I can watch it, because I feel like it's a little bit of a tall order. So yes, I would love to see them. Sky the Magnanimous. Avengers Doomsday being delayed till December 2026 and Secret Wars delayed till 27 makes sense. And hopefully the scripts are finished. Yes. And locked down because there's 20 films in development. Yeah. Look, I agree. I mean, look, this is from the Disney machine. The Disney machine has a lot going on. Take the time, and we will see what we will see when we can see it, as we can say. So one thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about because the trailer hadn't come out yet is, I believe, something that you were telling me you were not aware that the Ironheart series was coming so soon, right? And you kind of, it sort of seemed like part of a bigger issue you had. So tell me your thoughts about how you found out about Ironheart and how you were surprised that it was coming so soon.
Yeah, so it was either when I went to the movies to see Thunderbolts or when I went for a K-pop concert. I can't remember which one.
Both equally as important, obviously.
Yeah, so I saw the poster. Now, granted, I do not have cable. I don't watch TV. I only get ads like when I see them on streaming services, because most streaming services have ads now if you don't want to pay more money.
Correct.
And I hadn't seen anything about Ironheart at all. And I didn't even know Ryan Coogler. Like, how do you not promote that too? So, yeah, I had only because I saw the poster that I knew it was coming out. Other than that, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of interesting because obviously, one of the biggest movies of this year, especially non-genre movies of this year, I guess you can argue it as a genre movie, is Sinners. I just realized, I'm like, wow, it is a bit of a genre movie. So yeah, we knew this was coming out. Obviously, after Wakanda Forever, they kind of set it up, and we were well aware that this was coming. But that was a long time ago, Wakanda Forever, and you start to wonder if it's like the Blade movie. Like, they told us the Blade movie's coming, but where's the Blade movie? So I think that it's good to know it will be here June 24th, and we will be covering it every week on this show, just like we did with Daredevil Born Again. And Katie, I hope that you're too busy for us to come on every week because you're so busy working, but we'd love to have you be part of that panel. Do you think, though, that is it something about this project that makes you think, well, why is this the one that they weren't making a big push for?
So, and this might sound a little controversial if this is what the couple we were talking about. I find it interesting, and I don't know if this is at all related to their marketing plan. I don't know Marvel's marketing plan or not, but it seems to be pretty consistently something I've noticed about Marvel over the course of the last 10 years, where certain projects are not getting marketed as much as others. And a big factor of that is there projects that have predominantly people of color,
Sure.
whether it be Asian, whether it be Hispanic, whether it be Black, all of those different ones are not getting the same attention. And they're the actors have been the ones promoting them, or the talent have been the ones promoting them on their own pages. It started with Shang-Chi, where Simu was one of the main people marketing the movie outside of it coming out. And it's just a little bit frustrating, to say the least. And I don't know, like I said, if it's intentional, but it's a little frustrating, I guess is the best word to explain.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like you said, Ryan Coogler's involvement, especially this
Mhm.
year, it seems like the time to do it. And with all these exclamation points, our buddy Daniel Drew is saying frustrating lack of marketing, and
Mhm.
I won't pretend that this is the Marvel series that I'm the most excited for, but I'm very interested in it. I have a very sort of general familiarity with Riri Williams. I don't know the character very well. We'll
Mhm.
be covering an Ironheart story this summer on the Geekscape Book Club. I believe that's our pick for August. We've got a Fantastic Four in July and Superman for All Seasons next month. So I'm always interested in these things, and I remember she was great in Wakanda Forever. And Wakanda Forever, I think, didn't land the way it needed to with everybody, but again, it's from the Black Panther universe, where if somebody's going to tell me they think Black Panther is the best Marvel movie, I'm not going to fight them on it. It's I don't know, top 3 for me, but I get it. But it just makes it all baffling. And yes, Daniel, I sure do know that you love her character in the comics. And see, Sky the Magnanimous thought Ironheart was canned. When he saw the trailer, it didn't interest him. That's fine, doesn't have to, but he loves the actors and actresses involved in it. I feel like it should be called Ironheart and the Armor Wars. Armor Wars is a project that they were supposed to do. I believe it was going to be a movie, that was going to be a series, and right now it's nothing. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see if that actually happens. So
And
it's
originally, Ironheart was supposed to be a movie, or was it always supposed to be a
I
TV
think it was
show?
always a series, but I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Oh.
I believe we were going to get it as a series, and they did a great job introducing her in Ironheart. In Wakanda Forever.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye on that. Like I said, we will be covering that show, and you mentioned Shang-Chi, and
Mhm.
we talked a lot about that when it came out, and
Yeah.
we still don't have Shang-Chi too. I'm
We
just
did get Simu mentioning that it was happening on, I think, Jimmy Fallon. I'm not
one of
sure.
the Jimmies.
Yeah,
Either
I want to say
Jimmy
like,
Fallon, Jimmy
yeah,
Kimmel, or Jimmy Colbert. One of those
yeah.
shows. It was.
So I saw that clip, and he had said like it is happening, and I think they announced he's going to be in Secret Wars,
He's
right?
in one of them. He was one
Yeah,
of the chairs in
yeah.
the announcement, I think. Yes.
So like I'm glad we're finally getting that character back, because they kind of have thrown that character away. Even
Yeah.
though, if you guys follow me, if you guys have followed my other show that I'm on, or if you've been on a fan of this show for a while, you know that Shang-Chi was a huge movie for me. For those of you who are listening or watched or familiar with me, I am half Japanese. So it was a huge thing for me to see such a huge movie that was so Asian centered, in the MCU. So I'm happy that's coming back. But yeah, no, what Sky the Magnanimous was saying is that he has a comment up that says that the director, Daniel Destin, tried to market it as much as he could, but behind the scenes, Marvel had other interests. Exactly. That's the same thing Simu was doing. And so it was just a little bit sad that like certain projects take priority over others.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a tough one in that it was still fairly early in movies coming back after the pandemic started. So, I think it's unfair if they, you held that against it. And
Yeah.
Sky the Magnanimous, what happened to the live action Nova TV series? Yeah, great question. Is it still in development as a feature film? We're going to get the Nova character. I'm certain of that. It just depends on when it is. And yeah, so Shang-Chi 2 in development, won't get the film until 2028, along with X-Men, Black Panther 3. Yeah, there's a lot coming. And sort of similarly to what you were saying, at the time I talked about how I saw Shang-Chi with my wife, who's Chinese American, and she thought it was great. And she's just like, I really wish we had a movie like this when I was a kid, because they didn't, so
As you can see, I have my backpack here.
right, exactly. So there's a lot to be said for doing these things, and I do hope that we're able to get more of him, because people forget. You don't think about that movie, but it was great. And when anybody who saw it is like, even if they didn't love it, they're like, oh, but that fight on the bus is amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
So him and Aquafina, I want everybody returned. So hopefully, the Avengers movies kind of give us like a nice reset, where we're going to start to get to see a lot of these characters that maybe we haven't seen in a little while.
Also, question for you real quick, a little bit of a tangent, but they're adding stunt performing to the Oscars, right?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
So I think that's really good for the MCU, because a lot of these performers have been doing stunts for the MCU for so long, and they're so stunt heavy. And so I think that that'll be really special, that there's going to be recognition for those action sequences, because Marvel, of course, does not do well. Marvel movies do not do well in the Oscars, as you guys probably know.
Usually it's just costuming and effects.
But the fact that something that is very heavy in those is stunts, and that's going to get recognition is pretty great too. And hopefully that will also encourage them to do even more stunt stuff in the movies.
I assume that the Academy got a call from, like, a FaceTime call from Tom Cruise, and he showed him on the airplane in the new Mission Impossible, and he's like, you're not going to give me anything for this? And they're like, all right, fine. All right, we'll add the category. Other great news is something that happened since the last time we were here, that we have confirmation that Kristen Ritter will reprise Jessica Jones in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. This is an actual set photo, which I feel like it's not too spoilery, so we don't always share set photos. I am wearing my Defender shirt, so she's right here. And that's great news. I'm very selfish. I do want all the Defenders to come back at some point, and that I do mean all of them. What I really want is Colleen Wing, but I don't hate Danny Rand as Iron Fist, so I want everybody back, even Patsy as Hellcat. So I want all these characters to come back. Not all at once, they don't have to, but give us a couple of years. And what do you think about getting Jessica Jones back in Daredevil, and the fact that they also knew better than to recast her as someone other than Kristen Ritter?
Well, I didn't watch Daredevil yet. I know. I'm really
okay.
I've heard wonderful, amazing things, and I'm really excited to watch it. I also never finished the original, so that's sailed, because I think it's no longer on.
No, it's on Disney Plus now.
Oh, okay, because I'd heard they were leaving, but I wasn't sure if
the licensing with Netflix ran out, but
so they just switched it to Disney.
Yep.
Oh, okay, good to know. Did not know that.
Yeah.
But I loved her. I love her.
Yeah.
I thought her show was fantastic. I think between Daredevil and that one, they're both my favorites of the two that I saw. But I'm all for it. I'm for bringing all that whole thing back in and having this other TV universe that's working, because so far, like when those came out, it was kind of like those aren't MCU. They're not, like, they didn't really bring in as much to the MCU, and so I like it. I think she is. You don't recast her. She did such a great job. So I'm really excited about that. I think I did see that on my feed and it didn't quite click. Like, wait, oh, yeah, like.
Yeah. And we also need Misty Knight back. Shame on me, but the fact that Iron Fist season 2 ends and Colleen Wing has the Iron Fist and we never got to see it, that's the thread I've been waiting to pull on for years. For so long, Katie, it's when we were still doing shows in the AfterBuzz building. That's how long ago. It's that long that I've wanted to know what's going on with that. So all of it very exciting, though. And I'm glad that we're getting to catch up on all of these. Another one that we've kind of been wondering about for a while is Vision Quest. Now, did you see WandaVision way back
I
when?
did.
Yeah. So it ends with the white Vision just kind of disappearing. And a lot of people were like, well, where did he go? And I'm like, don't worry. We're going to find out in Vision Quest. And that was about 5 years ago now, maybe 4. So the showrunner is Terry Matalas, who did Star Trek Picard and also created, he adapted 12 Monkeys for Sci-Fi Channel. Obviously, it was a Terry Gilliam film. So he's they're talking about it. They're working on it. I think that what we really want is to see if it, and we have the visual of this. This was an entry in the Geekscape Book Club, sort of the Vision family that Tom King did. We'll see if it's at all anything like that. But it's sort of complicated because of Wanda. But it says in this article, and this is from Nerdist, shout out to them, sometime in 2026, we're going to get Vision Quest.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's more like I've got a lot of questions. Paul Bettany's tremendous. So that's a big reason why I'm like, yeah, let's get more Vision Quest. And, we need shows and movies for this show to work best, Katie. That's really what it comes down to.
That's understandable.
Yeah. So did you find yourself wondering what happened to White Vision, or me showing it now, you're like, oh, yeah, there was something about that?
I barely remember that at all. And I think it also falls into controversial opinion. I'm not the biggest WandaVision fan. It was probably one of my least favorite things that Marvel has done. So anything that kind of fell kind of within that, I've been kind of not really in tune with.
Sure.
I didn't see Agatha all along. I heard good things about it.
I suspect you would like Agatha.
Yeah. And I think that is more my realm, because if you guys know me, I'm more of the spooky, the dark, Halloween-y type girl. So, but Vision's a great character. Obviously, I would love to see how maybe they can change my mind, make me fall back into those characters again. And not that I don't like Wanda. I do like Wanda. I love her as an X-Men. So I'm hoping they can kind of get us back to that. I think my biggest concern with WandaVision is that I was expecting them to bring in the X-Men with that, and they didn't. And it was hard. When I go into Marvel projects and movies, I try not to have too high expectations, because the higher the expectations, the easier it is to be disappointed. So I try to go in as open-minded and low expectations as possible. Obviously, Spider-Man was the hardest one to have low expectations for, but that was a prime example of it. Is when we had heard Evan Peters was coming back, I was like, oh my goodness, it's happening.
That was very exciting.
Enter Steve Carell office. It's happening meme here. And they didn't. So I think that was also why I could not get into WandaVision, because I expected more from it than we got. But I obviously love her. It's just I didn't care for that show. But I would love to see them come back, maybe change my mind again. Marvel's constantly making me change my mind. If nothing else, that's what they always do.
No, it's true. And with me for WandaVision, it just the way that I usually try to sum it up is that they didn't really stick the landing. It didn't end in a satisfying way. I thought the setup was good. I do think that the first 3 episodes, the sitcom episodes, are the best part of it for sure. But that being said, I thought that there was some really interesting stuff. We got some characters who ended up being more consequential, namely Monica Rambeau, the one-time Captain Marvel, and a few other things. Before we move on, though, the guy, the Magnanimous, has it all figured out. It's a possibility that we could get a feature film in 2029 called Blade and the Midnight Suns instead of just Blade. R-rated, Gavin O'Connor, T.I. West, or Drew Goddard writing and directing, maybe. I mean, they want to do something with Blade. I think Mahershala Ali is a great choice. He's a tremendous actor. I don't know what the problems are there. Directors falling off on Marvel projects is very common. So
especially the darker ones.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that, they'll find a way to make it work. There's no reason it can't be Mahershala Ali. I know Wesley Snipes wants it to be him. I get it. Give him a cameo. He could even play Blade in it, just like if we do a Ghost Rider movie, you can put Nicolas Cage in it. That's not going to be a problem. It's fine. Go ahead and do that. And Daniel Drew, you're not wrong. I will continue to say the 6-episode miniseries structure was a huge mistake on Marvel Studios' part. I think getting the ongoing series, the ones that people tend to like the most are like Loki, which got a second season, and Daredevil is designed that way. I mean, we're getting 2 9-episode seasons, which were originally conceived as one long 18-episode season. But yeah, I like getting more episodes.
Me too.
So give us plenty of time, and not too many of those. So,
especially if you're going to do like only 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not too many of those like 32-minute episodes. Come on. Like at least get to 40. I'd love a 50-minute episode every time. So that is all the news we have. Although Skyler Magnanimous has a rumor that the X-Men reboot is set to be in active development. The story involves the first class X-Men, Mr. Sinister, the Hellfire Club, Krakoa, and then the giant size X-Men come in at the end. Well, you want to talk about problematic recasting? Someday, somebody other than Hugh Jackman is going to play Wolverine. And when you do that, people are going to be like, I don't know if I'm feeling it. So
100%. I honestly think it's coming very soon. And that is going to be a whole episode in itself, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So all that news being said, excited to have all of it, excited for what's to come, excited for Fantastic Four. Who do factor into our main topic here. So, Katie, people have heard me talk a fair amount about Thunderbolts. So I want to let you start your expectations going in and what you thought of the movie when you finally did get to see it.
Yeah, so I saw it kind of late. I think I saw it a week or 2 ago, maybe more than that. I can't remember. It's been a long month, but it was sometime in the last month that I saw it. So we did finally see it. Actually, it might have been like the second or third weekend it was in theaters. So it wasn't like right away.
Sure.
So there had been some buzz about it already amongst like a lot of my peers who love movies, who love going to movies, had all said it's great. It kind of was a nice refresh, felt more like old Marvel. And that's kind of what when I went into the movie, I was like, okay, that's going to be the one thing that I will probably be most like I will take into this movie will it give me that same feeling that I did when I went to all these Marvel movies, in the last 10 years prior to this. And it did. It honestly did feel like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting back to what Marvel used to be. I had that joy. I think that they did, for the most part, they did a good job with balancing these characters that we know well, mixed with some that we don't know as well. And of course, the only problem I was like, I did see Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So thankfully I was familiar with the characters that were in there. I did see Black Widow. So I did see all of these characters prior to being in this film. I can see where the people who fell off in the last few years might have gone into this and been like, who are these people? Because if you missed out on Disney Plus or you missed out on some movies, you would be really lost as to who each of them are. And I can't decide if that was helped or hindered the movie at all because I knew who the characters were. The interviews with, why can't I think the actor's name? He's the Captain America, the new Captain
Wyatt Russell, which in the comics he's known as U.S. Agent. I don't know that they really call him that in this. But,
no, I don't think so. But Wyatt Russell, because I was like, I know he's a Nepo baby.
I know his dad. Come on.
Because I was like, because we have him and then we have
Louis Pullman.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's multiple. Which, by the way, the whole movie, I was watching it and I'm like, he looks so familiar. He looks so familiar. Why do I know this face? And so then I looked him up afterward and was like, oh, see, there it is. Kind of like with The Boys and I can't think of his name right now.
Well, at any moment you feel like he could have grabbed the bullhorn and talked about celebrating our Independence Day, and you would have been like, "Yes, that's why he looks that way." So
but I hated him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which of course you're supposed to. So I don't think I've fully forgiven him and I did not see the newest Captain America. I am so behind, y'all. Like, at this point, I was waiting for it to go to streaming at this point because it just never worked out when it came out. But it's like $20 to rent, which is the same as buying the movie. So I just gotta wait a little bit longer until it gets to be more available. So I know there's probably some gaps that, like, me and my roommate were like, so what happened between Bucky and Sam? We're like, what happened there?
Right.
So that was the only problem I think I had with the movie, that we had to fill in some we'll have to fill in some context clues later, but it was delightful. For the most part.
By the way, I want you to know, Katie, you and
Yeah.
I are talking on Tuesday, May 27th.
Yes.
Captain America Brave New World is on Disney Plus tomorrow.
Oh, sweet. All
So-
right, good to know.
So you
I will-
saved that $20 and you were rewarded for it. You have those $20.
Sounds good.
The only thing that you'll find out in Captain America Brave New World is this idea that Bucky's trying to be a congressman.
Mhm.
And what they talk about in the post-credit scene, that scene's actually filmed on the set during production for Doomsday. So they're referencing something in Doomsday that none of us have seen yet. So
Gotcha.
he's saying, like, we had a conversation, it didn't go well. We haven't seen it yet. By the time that comes back around in Doomsday, I assume we'll have seen that conversation.
Got you.
So you didn't miss that much.
Okay.
Valentina talks about our president turned into a big red Hulk. That's the biggest reference to that movie, actually. Yeah.
So I do have to say, I think the one thing, this is a little bit of an off-topic thing, is like, I didn't see a lot on this movie before. I heard about it, but I didn't see as much about it because I think it's a tricky, slippery slope with it being a new, spoiler alert, a new Avengers movie.
New Avengers, yeah.
Which that got spoiled for me before. So I will say this, that we were talking about before I went to go see the movie, that did get spoiled for me because I saw a video of Sebastian Stan changing posters in Los Angeles.
Which, by the way, around the corner from my house, right across the street from the Disney lot, I took a picture of myself standing by those signs because I'm like, look, this is where Bucky was. I didn't see Bucky.
Yeah.
I didn't see Sebastian Stan doing it.
Yeah.
But
and it could have been a lookalike. Let's be real. Like, we don't know for sure. Like, I don't know for sure. But I saw that footage because it was circulating around TikTok.
Sure, yeah.
And then I saw the posters changing because I know the Disney building had, like, they pulled aside the rest of it. And then after that, it was Stitch and, like, all this different stuff. So I found out about them changing the name essentially before the movie. So that did get spoiled for me, but unfortunately, like, aside from that, I didn't have a lot of expectations. But my roommate loves Bucky. That is like one of her favorite characters. I love Bucky. I mean, how can you not? He is fantastic. And I still am hoping and waiting to see where else they take that character. Just for Sebastian Stan's sake.
Yeah.
I do have a random question for you and the chat, which is kind of related to this. Who do you think is going to be in the MCU longer, Tom Hiddleston or Sebastian Stan? Who's going to last longer?
Well, Tom Hiddleston is listed as being in Doomsday. He was one of the chairs in that.
Yes.
So it's a great question. Who's going to get more screen time? That's tough because Tom Hiddleston had 2 seasons. I feel like Bucky's around for a while, because he fills a few different roles. He could be a Nick Fury type at some point if it gets to that. You know what I mean? Putting things together. So I'm going to say Sebastian Stan. But by the way, they're both tremendous actors in everything that you see them in. So if it ever got to a point like, they're just too busy to do so much Marvel stuff, I'm like, all right, I get it. But I'm going to put my money on Sebastian Stan. But let us know in the chat if you're Team Hiddleston or Team Stan. If you're a Stan, please let us know.
So, like, I feel like, when Sebastian came into this universe, everybody thought he was going to be the next Captain America.
I thought so. Yeah.
And now I'm like, are they ever going to? Like, I don't think they will. I don't think it's in their plan. But at the same part of me is kind of like, will we? So, but yeah. So the only, like, small things I think, like, in this, it wasn't quite as set up as badly as, like, so example, I'm going to do a really bad comparison, but why can't I think of the name right now? other massive cast movie that came out that fell off the face of the earth that had Selma Hayek and
Oh,
was it Selma Hayek? No, who was it?
was it a Marvel movie?
Yeah, it was the Marvel movie, but I can't think of the name right now.
Oh, you're talking about Eternals.
Eternals.
And
Thank you.
yes, Selma Hayek.
So memorable that I can't remember the name.
Well, no, I mean it had I mean Angelina Jolie was in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I agree.
So,
yeah.
The Eternals wasn't bad, wasn't great. Probably won't see it again. But one of the huge problems they had is that they put in so many characters that we knew nothing about, all in one movie. This one wasn't quite as bad because we had gotten some of the backstory, but you still risk that with the people who haven't watched the new MCU. So they did have more setup. But my favorite thing I think about this is that they gave Yelena so much love and attention. I don't know how everybody feels about Yelena here, but love her. I think she's fantastic. I'm glad she got a movie. I'm glad we got a female character aside from obviously we've had Captain Marvel, etc., and things like that, but another female-led huge lead character. And love Florence, like just delightful. So, and someone said that they liked the movie. Oh, Sky the Magnanimous said that. I think it was him that said liked the movie, didn't love it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I didn't dislike it. I wouldn't say I liked it. It's a little bit above liked it. Curious to see. I'm just glad that I feel like we got like a kind of like a reboot to the MCU and like I actually care again, if that makes sense. So yeah, didn't love it. Believe a live action feature film adaptation of Dark Avengers would have succeeded more. Maybe we will get Dark Avengers film in 2030.
Which 2030 is not as far away as it sounds.
It's not. It seems like it is, but I can tell you, for other other things that I'm passionate about in real life, like that, I thought that's so far in advance, and I'm like, oh, we're already here. So, so like it really is like the Olympics is 3 years away.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I was like, oh, it's so far away. Now I'm
Forget
like,
it. Yeah.
3 years. So
I know.
yeah, it's not far.
I know. We already have to try to plan our lives for that summer and how we'll be able to get around here in Los Angeles. Sky the Magnanimous goes on to say, I like Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts. I don't think he's suited for X-Men reboot. That's fine. I'd give it to Matthew Vaughn, James Wan, Gareth Edwards, Drew Goddard, or Damien Lindelof. That it should script. There's something to be said for that. You get a very unique take, but it would probably be consistent with what we got comic book wise. I wanted to make sure that we got a couple of these in. Of course. Daniel Drew feels like Bucky should be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love that. And Craig Robinson checking in from across the pond. Thank you for staying up late, sir.
Thank you.
I feel like Bucky will, as it's easier to put him in different projects. That's sort of what I was going on, is the idea that he could become like a Nick Fury type. Yeah, exactly. Or Coulson.
Nick Fury.
And Craig Robinson commented, so holding out for that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s relaunch. And to be fair, he would sign the petition. Sky Magnanimous loves both Tom Hiddleston and Sebastian Stan, but I think that Tom is in Doomsday, Secret Wars, and Thor 5. Then he'll be replaced with the character the Enchantress, and we'll get a new Winter Soldier. Well, that's what I love about Sky the Magnanimous. He's like several moves down the chessboard farther than me.
He's invested.
He's put a lot of time and thought into it. And I think that everything you're saying is why Thunderbolts worked. And it is not, I mean, it's certainly, it's not probably my top 5 Marvel movies, but it's one of the best in the recent last few years. You know what I mean? It's fun. And I think that to what Sky the Magnanimous says and what you said, I love Florence Pugh, one of my favorite actresses. She's phenomenal in a movie that I don't recommend for people, but I have already mentioned on this show. It's called A Good Person. It was directed by Zach Braff. She's phenomenal in it. It is a gut-wrenching, really tough movie. Morgan Freeman and Molly Shannon are also in it. It's so well done, but it's so sad. It's really depressing.
I gotta say, I did cry in this movie.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, what in Thunderbolts made you cry? That's interesting.
So this movie wasn't dark, but it wasn't lighthearted. Like there was some really good humor. Obviously, wow, guys, my brain is not working with names, but her dad, his character.
Yeah, Red Guardian. David
the
Harbour
actor's
from
name.
TV Stranger Things.
Yeah. So I love him as an actor too. I saw him in Violent Night. If you guys didn't see it,
Loved Violent
great.
Night. Yes.
So he's as campy as it is, and as much as people have opinions on the accents or whatever, it's fun. He added some lightheartedness to it. That said, it was very dark in the sense of the underlying theme of the story, particularly the villain of the story. And I will say, if you guys haven't seen Thunderbolts and you are wanting to see it, there is some heavy tones on depression, and one's mind. So if you do struggle with that, just be mindful that there is some kind of dialogue and plot points about that. But there was like the scene where Yelena is trying to talk him down and get him out of this to save the world. I was crying when she was like, I thought I was alone. I thought I was, there was like, there's darkness. And I was crying. I was like, this is very relatable. And I respect that they made something that was relatable to a lot of people, and put it into the movie. I wasn't expecting it when I went into the movie for it to kind of go there. So
yeah, it's something that I commented on in our earlier conversations about this, that I was not expecting that the main enemy was going to be sort of this two-pronged thing. One, it's all of ourselves, and two, it's depression. And, having somebody have your back doesn't make it go away, but it helps it as you try to deal with it. When I have these people standing here, literally holding my hand. And I was, like I said, I was not expecting that. That was a level of emotion I wasn't expecting. And, Disney knows how to pull that off. I saw the live action Lilo and Stitch with my kids and my wife over the weekend, and she was like crying the whole thing. There were a couple times where I'm like, how did they take this movie and make it so much more emotional? The cartoon's still better, but they can find their way to do it. And I thought that was a great job. I thought, the potential for the Sentry character is fascinating because it is one of those, I can do all this stuff, but it's going to be really bad for me if I try and do it. And so, we have that to sort of see in the future, but I thought it was great that it was about, it's like, it's not, you could boil it down to like, sometimes you just need a hug, but there's so much more to it than that. It's like everybody needs somebody in their corner. And this guy didn't have anybody in his corner. In fact, it was the opposite. He had people like, hey, you want some money? You might die, but let me give you, we'll try and turn you into something better. And I kind of really thought it was interesting to get that. I think that this is a very unlikely collection of characters to what you said, Wyatt Russell.
Yeah.
Very unlikable. In
they're trying to like make you like him more.
He's less unlikable. I'm trying to not say more likable. He's less unlikable in this than he was in Falcon and Winter Soldier, to the extent I do feel a little bad for him. Yes, he's a jerk about like, why don't you take care of the kid? But it's like, all right, well, why does he say that? He's lashing out from like, oh yeah, I was Captain America for like 2 seconds, as Yelena says. And I do love her. I love Alexei, who's the Red Guardian. I've said many, many times that Yelena stole the Black Widow movie from Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Unfair to her because she was already dead in our mind. So we were already looking for that. But, with an assist from David Harbour's Red Guardian. So they set the right tone. They helped make this fun. They're funny. They're silly at times. Wyatt Russell's be able to be silly. Even Bucky. Sebastian Stan hated the idea that he would put his arm in the dishwasher. I like it. I think it's funny.
I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah. But I think that it's interesting because Ghost was certainly not a character that I thought much about. I do want to take a moment to talk about, and I mentioned to you that I wanted to kind of get into this for at least a moment, that I understand Jake Schreier talking about killing Taskmaster because he wanted everybody to know that, look, anybody could die at any moment. He did want it to be shocking. It's just unfortunate because the potential for that character is really there. The actress who played her, Olga Kurylenko, is someone who we also got to meet in the Black Widow
Black
movie.
Widow movie. Yeah.
But so we never really got to do much more with her. Was that something that you were just jarring, or was it like, oh, well, at least there, were three. Well, if you count Julie Louis-Dreyfus and you count Mel, there are a lot of like sort of strong female characters in here. So I guess it's a little easier in this movie that they kill one of the female characters so quickly, but it just feels disappointing, I guess. And I'm wondering what you think about that, Katie.
Yeah, it was disappointing, especially because I know when Black Widow came out, there was a lot of people were upset with how they handled the character in that movie already.
Yeah.
So when Taskmaster came back, I'm like, oh, they're gonna redeem like the mistakes they made in Black Widow. No, because you killed in the very beginning of the movie, dies off. Which I get. We don't know a lot about this character, but and mind you, to the listeners who aren't familiar with me, I don't read a lot of comics. Like I didn't grow up reading comics, but I still kind of research what goes on in the MC. I have knowledge of what goes on in the Marvel comics and like different characters, and I've played other games. Like I played the Spider-Man game, like all that stuff. So I'm familiar with certain big characters in the MCU just based off of that. Taskmaster has a lot of potential that I feel like can no longer be used unless they figure out a way to be like, she's not dead. So I feel like Taskmaster is kind of falling into the category of MCU characters that they have a lot of potential to elaborate on, given their lore, given their source material, that we are not getting. Like I know I talked about it with you prior to the show, like the whole Kang thing, which I understand why they did what they did, but we're now not getting Kang, which is a huge character. This might be controversial. Is it MODOK? Wait, what's the character? It's MODOK, right?
That MODOK was in that movie. Yeah,
was in Ant-Man.
Yeah, so MODOK shows up in Quantumania.
Yeah.
MODOK also had a Hulu series that was run by our buddy Jordan Bloom, who's been on the show a bunch of times. Okay. And so we got that MODOK character, and I think people were maybe a little, well, let's just say it didn't go over as well as people wanted it to.
Exactly.
And I guess that's what happened with Taskmaster. I think that the abilities of Taskmaster could be, attributed to someone else. There can be a file that was sort of, in some, I don't know, Red Room satellite office. Yeah. We can get a Taskmaster. I would be surprised, assuming that they make these movies long enough, there will probably be someone else as Taskmaster at some point, but it could have been interesting to see. Yes. But it does at least have the gut punch, as I almost called her Florence, as Yelena says, she did some bad things and then she died. It's going to happen to all of us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, that's fair. Yeah.
They also, I have to give them credit. They handled the whole commentary too behind a new Avengers really well.
Yeah.
The whole after credits scene where everybody's like, not my Avengers, not this isn't that. I was like, chef's kiss. Because you know how the internet is, you know how the fans are, and you kind of did like a jab, but still made it humorous. Like, hey, we know it's not the Avengers, but hey, we still are going to take this on further. And it kind of broke the fourth wall, but like didn't quite, because it's like they're not directly talking. But I had to appreciate that, especially given like some of the scrutiny that their TV shows got. Like I said, didn't love WandaVision, loved She-Hulk, and a lot of people did not love She-Hulk. I am so sad She-Hulk is not coming back. I thought it was great as a 30-something-year-old woman in Los Angeles. I was like, love her. Like,
I mean, we covered that for the show, and I liked most of the episodes. I love the character. I thought Tatiana Maslany was fantastic, and I think it gets a bad rap. I think a lot of things get a bad rap, but that one in particular, and because tonally it was so different. But as we talked about at the time, there is an early 90s incarnation of She-Hulk that is very much in line with what we got there, sort of the very tongue-in-cheek and all of that. I just wanted to, before I forget, that Daniel Drew said Taskmaster was the Morph of the movie, as in the X-Men animated series, where poor Morph gets killed off in the two-part premiere. So yes. And we still don't know who's on Sam's Avengers team. So who knows who it'll be, says Daniel Drew. Yeah, and these are the Avengers with a Z, which I think is very funny. Some of that stuff, and it will be interesting to see. We'll have multiple Avengers teams, and we'll get all of these characters sort of continuing on in Doomsday, and
Secret Wars, right?
And Secret Wars, yeah. And I believe that scene, it might be shorter. It will be in the movie. It'll be in Doomsday. Kind of like how we had there was like the post-credit scene that they were gonna have Scott Lang help Cap break into the Avengers mansion, and that basically was a scene that we got. So sometimes we do get the same scene in another movie, other times we don't. I feel like we'll get some version of that. Maybe it'll be quicker, but I think I'm looking forward to that. Again, the movie being fun goes a long way. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as this character has been fun. We had mostly gotten her from the TV series, but she did pop up in Black Widow in particular, which it doesn't help the argument that you don't need to see everything to see these movies for there to be so many characters from, like, well, they're on this TV show and this movie and this thing, and you're like, okay, it's kind of exhausting, and I get it, totally is. So but that's kind of the way we look at it. So I really was glad, and I guess this movie is not considered a tremendous success because at this point you need to make $1 billion to be like, okay, this is a success. But I think in general they were pretty happy with the way it turned out. I do know that Jake Schreier was talking about that originally the ending that test audiences got to see was more open-ended, and it didn't have all those things that you're talking about, all the criticism of the New Avengers. It was just going to be New Avengers, and then it was going to end and still have the tremendous Starship song, Nothing's Going to Stop Us Now, from Mannequin and Mannequin 2 on the Move. And they also, probably in putting together Doomsday, they realized, like, okay, we're going to have this scene here at the end. And I think that helps. And it also helps us be excited for Fantastic Four, which so far we've still never gotten a great Fantastic Four movie. I'm holding out hope. The idea that very soon after we see them, they'll be able to kind of play with the MCU proper, and they've kind of figured out a way around that. It just reinforces, Katie, we can bring everybody from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. over anytime because the FF are going to be in this other universe. And Craig Robinson hasn't been brave enough to watch Quantum Mania.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, not a lot of people loved it. I think there's things that I like. I like that Bill Murray is in an MCU movie. It's not even that he's great in it. I just love that he's there. I really like Paul Rudd, but what I really like about Paul Rudd is Scott Lang. So I think I was willing to just kind of go along for the ride. The most frustrating thing is that Hank Pym might as well not be there. They do hardly.
I think the biggest thing was, and I was trying to remember what the last Marvel movie was I saw in theaters before this, and I realized it was Ant-Man, I think. That was, I think, the last Marvel movie before this, right? No, the Marvels came out after that, right?
Yeah, the Marvels was...
I didn't see the Marvels. I wasn't a huge fan of Captain Marvel, but that's another conversation. But so I didn't rush to go see the Marvels. But I did hear there's certain things I found out what I needed to know from the Marvels when I asked about it. But so I think we're in the step towards the right direction of getting those crowds back into the movie theaters. And I do want to say, if you guys are watching or listening to this show, please go to the movies when you get the chance. I know it is expensive. I know it is a lot harder to go watch it, especially if you have children, especially if all that thing is. But nothing really beat, like, in my brain, I wish I could see No Way Home and Infinity War for the first time again, and Endgame for the first time again in theaters, because it was an experience. Some people don't like the cheering and the loud noises that the Marvel crowds get at the movie theaters, but it is fun. it is something that's been lost, and the pandemic took a lot away from us. Let's like really not let it take movies away from us. And at this point, seeing a movie in theater is getting to be cheaper than watching it on streaming, because streaming is going up in price by the day. So I hope that Thunderbolts, if Thunderbolts is the movie that helps get that air back into the MCU, then I think that it did its job. Whether or not it's saying it's successful based off how much money it made, if it revives the MCU and gets people happy about it again, then I think that would make it successful too. Like,
Yeah.
and of course they want their money back and all that different stuff. Like, understandable, it's a business, but I'm more optimistic, and so I appreciate Thunderbolts for that, especially given that it is essentially a new cast. If you are not familiar with all the other projects that it did, so
Yeah, and look, a lot of movie theaters will do, like the Tuesday afternoons and things like that, where it's cheaper. You can do the membership services, like I have the AMC A list, where once I've seen 2 movies, it's paid for itself, and
they
I could.
4 now, don't they?
I was gonna say I could see as many as 16 in a month,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
they used to
But
be 9. No, it used to be 12.
Right. No, I think it used to be 12.
Yeah.
And Craig, I love the event feel. Don't get that excitement in the UK cinemas, but I watch the YouTube audience reactions.
Yeah.
It can be fun. Look, I was talking about the new Mission Impossible Final Reckoning earlier, and I did go to the giant IMAX screen at Universal, and it was the Thursday night when it opened. It was like 10:15. I don't usually go that late. I don't usually go on the first night. And it was kind of fun. I was like, oh, look, everybody's here, and we're all here for the same reason. We want to see whether or not Tom Cruise is going to fall off that plane. Okay, we didn't think he was going to fall off the plane.
Yeah,
and yes, to what Katie's saying, Ladastro's right. Matinees are the way. If you don't want the big crowd and you don't want to let, typically I like to go Friday morning at like 10 or noon, and those are a great time to see a movie. And for night owls, you can go even, especially when they open, you can go at like, 1,
8 or
2
9, 8 or 10 now, usually. Because when I went to see Shang-Chi, I think it was a 10 o'clock showing instead of the 12 midnight showing. But yeah, like, and I've been to the IMAX at City Walk so many times for Marvel. That is where I've seen a majority of the Marvel movies in IMAX. That's where I saw Shang-Chi. That's where I saw Spider-Man, like, a lot of them, because if you guys are from the Los Angeles area, there's this whole hierarchy of like which theaters we want to go to for which specific reason and all this different stuff.
We used to need to go to the ArcLight in Hollywood, but it's not there anymore. So everything shifted, and AMC in Burbank, where I live, has a perfectly fine IMAX. But it's not. It's not the same. It's not the same as that one.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone had posted a thread on Threads where I was like, Angelino's, what's the best AMC? And they were like, why is it Century City? And then I was like, no, hold on. And I like posted my order. And one of the former someone that we all know from our AfterBuzz days, our friend Ryan, was like, 100% what you said, because I had like my role.
So, Ryan knows a good screen from a bad screen. Our buddy Ryan Nilsson, who some people know, works in post production. He understands all of it. Yeah, and
But, so basically, I hope we get to that moment again. Like, whether it be Avengers, whether it be where we get that huge experience.
Yeah. Look, I always say I'm not really a fan of the Fast and Furious movies. I've never seen a whole one, but if that's what brings people back, it's fine. Whatever it is, I don't care. I'm all for it. It is fun. I'm looking forward to seeing Fantastic Four with a crowd. And in the interim, we'll have Ironheart here on Marvel Movie Talk, and we'll be talking about it every week. And hopefully, Katie, you're able to join us sometimes there. But let everybody else know, Katie, where they can find you.
I am Katie, aka KT_Christine with a C for those listening. I also do another show called The Con Guy / we have a Con Girl network as well. So we report on all things that are convention related, all things events. We also do, of course, just like this, pop culture shows. We've been going for, this is our 10th year. So if you
Yes.
guys like that, you guys can find us on YouTube. You can also find us where all the other podcasts are as well. But I just love all things nerdy. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Twitter at the same handle, KT_Christine, for anything. If you do follow me on X, be prepared for it to just pretty much be K-pop, because
Lots of
that is another
K-pop.
huge
It's
thing for
true.
me.
Yes.
So yeah, you guys can follow me there, and I just I have thoughts and I put them on the internet, and
Yeah.
that's how what we all do to manage our crazy lives, right? So yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's always great to get to chat with you. And we will talk again soon here on the Geekscape Network. Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we'll be doing the next installment of the Geekscape Book Club, talking about Thunderbolts Red, which is an interesting Thunderbolts team that includes Elektra, the Punisher, and the Red Hulk. So join us for that. And we'll be back with more of this show very soon. We've got a couple of ideas for evergreen shows until we get to the premiere of Ironheart, but we'll be back in June. So look for us there. And please check out my personal podcast, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. I want to get this in from Sky the Magnanimous. Going to the movies is very expensive. If the theaters lower ticket prices, have better security, better food, big screens, bigger movie complexes, then more people might go. I've noticed a real increase in the quality of the food, not so much the price of the food. But if you're going to look at it as a quality, yes, you have the ones where you can get drinks for certain shows, alcoholic beverages,
They get
all of
me
that.
every time. They
I
get
know.
me every time with that.
Right, exactly. So, but I agree. If you go during the day, security, you don't have to worry about quite as much. But
Yeah.
I understand. We need to all worry about these things. And Avengers Doomsday has a budget of $450 million to break even with a $1.5 billion. So if you love Marvel Studios, go to the movies to see more films like it. And hopefully it's a good film. We thank you to everyone who appreciated us having here, and Daniel Drew, who enjoys the food. Thanks again to everybody. We will be back soon with this show. And before you know it, we'll be talking Ironheart. And then you're going to blink and we'll be talking about Fantastic Four, First Steps. And I'm sorry to hear this, Daniel, that your theater replaced curly fries with waffle fries. I do like waffle fries, though. It's hard to say no.
Depends on,
Yeah,
but I get
yeah.
that. A lot of
I
people
know, but when you want curly fries and you don't
Yeah.
get them,
not a lot of places have curly fries anymore, so
it's just Jack in the Box is the only place I know where I can get it.
Yeah.
All that being said, we will see you next time. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior.